scripture today is from Acts, and it's a nice short one. In the last days it will be, God declares, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. I guess I don't have to sit down. The year I came to this church first was a very good year. We had designed and built our house on 10 acres, complete with trees on the hills, 2 creeks, a pasture, and we asked the kids, would you like a horse or a pool? And they said, a pool, please. So we dug a hole in our backyard. And I found, after a little searching, this church where my children were welcomed, and it was okay to think. That was a really important thing for me. But very shortly after that, a matter of months, it became the beginning of a really hard year for me. An intern in a Yakima hospital pulled me aside and he said, get your father out of here. They have misdiagnosed him. And so that began a year-long routine of throwing in a load of clothes, a casserole, hugging the kids, kissing the husband, driving to Yakima, picking up my father, taking him to the Virginia Mason Hospital in Seattle, staying with him for a couple days, returning to Banks, waiting for a couple days, and making the trip in reverse. And needless to say, I was not happy with God. I was ticked. And then one day, right here, our associate pastor, Doug Rose, prepared communion, and he said 3 things that changed my journey. 1, he said that come, the table is set. 2, he said, come, all are invited. I was not a member yet. 3, he said, come, lay your burdens down. And that was the beginning for the rest of the months and the weeks and the hours and even the very last minute by my father's bed that became absolutely precious. Not long after that, I'm in the Nurture Commission, and about 2 minutes after that, I'm in the Learning Community. And then for 20 years, Renee and I are ushering a roster of 150 kids in the education wing. It was always a reenactment of the Exodus when they left. And this is what I learned during that time. We think that sometimes that we're just planting seeds for the future. The kids will grow up and they'll sprout wings and off they go. Deep roots to strong wings is not a linear line. It's circular. It's circular. I prepare a lesson, and I get to see a little Aaron Fry grow up to be a beautiful human being. I work with kids or teachers like the Burruses, and we see twins, the Harder boys, as different as twins could be, and they're playing rock, paper, scissors together. Or I get to see a Truax boy tease the heck out of some girls, and they're just giggling and loving it. And I get to see Holly the Van's daughter, Jordan, graduate from Pacific University this year. Jimmy House. Yeah, well, let's talk about Jimmy. I write on the bulletin board, things I need, and another square, things I want. And Jimmy writes on the first square, video games. I go, Jimmy? And he laughs. He says, so I really need them. And I know, just from that, I am nourished for the future because I know that kid's gonna make it. That's a good kid. And it feels like it's Sunday and we can start when I see the Lawrence boys show up. It's like, yes. So deep roots to strong wings. Deep roots to strong wings. Yours, mine, and ours together. And it's not just a generational thing. If you need to know that it's for any age, when we get together, just go visit Alice Hoskins And you will come out shaking your head, smiling, and knowing that you have been perfectly nourished.
Today we're talking about our deep roots here in the Forest Grove United Church of Christ. Well, you know, if you're going to have deep roots, you first have to grow those roots in a strong base, which encourages growth. Our very strong Christian foundation gives us that base in which our roots will grow. The first part in growing roots starts with a seed. Here's the seed of my story. I've often told the story of how Forest Grove became an important part of our family's life here. And it began far from here and years ago. When I was a senior in high school and looking for colleges to attend in the Pacific Northwest, the minister of our local congregational church, which I attended in Southern California, looked up colleges and he suggested a nice congregational college called Pacific University in Forest Grove, Oregon. And I remember thinking, I wonder where that is. A couple of things always stick with me. One is, why do I keep remembering that? Small conversation for many years, and that also turned out to be a clear sign to me about my future and my family's future here. So now we have a seed to grow. Now we have a base to grow that seed in. When we moved to Forest Grove in the fall of 1967, the town was a lot smaller, and as part of our welcome to the community, we were visited by Reverend Kelly from this church. One of the things he talked about was that if you're living in suburban Southern California, you're pretty much going to have a view of the house across the street, so it doesn't really matter where you live. Living here with all the natural beauty, you can find a home that has a nice view, so take advantage of that. Another significant conversation, which I'll come to in a minute. So now we have the seed and a base in which to grow those roots. After a while, we began attending this church, and while in those days you were considered a newcomer in Forest Grove for the first 20 years, what we found attending this church was a warm and welcoming congregation and ministry. We felt right at home here. And that's what's occurred to me about what the strong roots of this church mean. Yes, the building in its various configurations and replacements has occupied the same space since 1845, and that is clearly a strong root to the space. The real strong roots are the members and the various clergy that makes this church have such strong roots. It's the people here, and their shared values and friendliness. Now let me tell you about some of those roots and how they all come back here. When Rich Osborne was minister, he had an associate minister named Doug Rose. You've just heard about Doug. Doug grew up in Antioch, California, and he and his brother Dave went to the same middle school with my nephew's dad, Leon. That's also the same middle school where our good friend Lorna Saylor, who married her husband Jerry here in the old church, went on to teach, and that's where her daughter Kathy now teaches. Here's another one. I went to school at Oregon State University as a business major. One of the families we met here at this church were John and Mary Welch. Mary's father, Mr. Craig, was one of my favorite accounting professors. But remember Reverend Kelly and his comment about finding a house with a view? That turned out to be the first house we ever purchased on our own, that same house, by the way, and it's next door to where we live now, and the view's really wonderful. You know, when you own your own house, you really put down roots. And there are so many more roots to grow here. Many of our other members here also had kids in the local swim team. Jack and Winnie View, Jim and Cecile Doyle, just to name a few. Our kids all took Suzuki violin lessons from Kathy Walden. And there were so many others. Pete and Pat Truax were teachers for our boys as they grew up in the Forest Grove school system. And when the boys started school at Harvey Clark School, the kindergarten class took place in our education wing, with the lovely Florence Shishida as teacher, another early root. So it's really all about the people and the strong roots that you have with them. These are the roots that continue to grow as we nurture them. We were active here for a good 25 years. The boys grew up and went to college, good friends moved away, aging parents moved near here, and other activities came along which took us away from regular church attendance. The strong roots were still here though. The kids grew up and now we're grandparents and great-grandparents. Our own personal situation changed as Bev needed special care and as her memory issues and other medical challenges made it necessary for her to live in a medical care facility. It was now time to tend to some of those existing strong roots. I felt a very strong pull to come back home to this church. It was like coming back home from a long journey. Everything was still warm and inviting. An interesting thing had happened as those roots continued to grow. Life had changed, and so had the church. There was a new emphasis on being welcoming to all. There is an overwhelming sense of acceptance and welcome, regardless of what your personal situation is or what your previous religious experience had been. We love and care for each other just as who you are. Nothing else matters. And there are always lots of hugs. So no worries about being a newcomer if you've only lived here 20 years or less. Some of the same people were here that we've known for many years, and now there are people we could become friends with as they all became members and were active in our church family. So what does that mean for the future of those strong roots to continue to grow? To show that our faith welcomes all with a spirit of love and acceptance. To show that young people and new families to the area are always welcome. To give Pacific University students and families the knowledge that we are of a strong faith and we encourage their participation. To show to all of the community that we stand here both from a historical standpoint, but also that we evolve through the times. We are steadfast in the belief that we're all good people, even if some of our individual beliefs are different from others. That's okay. We welcome diversity here, and by showing that welcoming spirit, we will continue to grow and thrive for many years to come. So let those strong roots continue to grow and bring us new roots to join our own base. Plant a seed and let us look forward to future deep roots.
When I joined the church back in 1985, I was this pregnant. So all the pictures are like me, super pregnant. And after I became a member, then I was suddenly on nurture, and after that, Sandy invited me to be in the learning community. So it was a journey. One of my goals in the learning community was to have the kids learn Bible stories, which really show that life has joys and challenges. But the family and community can help you through them because you know you're loved and supported. The church is that community, and it allows each of us to be ourselves, adult or child. It encourages and inspires us to continue growing and expanding. Part of it was also the fun intergenerational activities like Advent workshops, Christmas pageants, etc., which created very sweet memories for all. I think it would be wonderful to continue those types of intergenerational activities, bringing everyone together, or other types of ways to connect each other, but it only works if people make it a priority. I feel that community connection is especially important since COVID, where we're all isolated and relied heavily on technology. Coming back together, reuniting in person has been so wonderful and important. To bring a thought from the Renee book, The Gifts of Imperfection, where she says that technology can be a kind of imposter for connection when it's merely being communicative, not connected. That brings up another idea that I think is a great connector, letting people know when a bunch of people are reading a specific book, like the book group, or in this case, Stevens is reading the Renee book, and so is the book group. I think it's a great idea, so we can talk about stuff. I invite everyone to read that book, because it is a good book. An example of my personal experience of growth and exploration in this church was when I wanted to teach Reiki, which was a scary prospect in November of 2002. This was the first place I taught Reiki. The church supported and encouraged this important part of my life when it felt risky to put myself into the world that way. It enabled me to be able to share this amazing tool for healing and spirituality with my community then and now. Sharing it is an honor that brings me joy. We can take advantage of various opportunities and have many options because we have strong roots, like a safety net that allows us to reach for the stars while being true to the core of ourselves. What a blessing. This church itself is growing and changing too, but continues to provide the supportive roots of security to allow us to expand our wings, young or older, to continue our journey to be who we are and find out what we can become with a constant, loving community right here for us to cheer us on, hug us, offer help, or just listen. In so doing, we are also modeling for the younger ones healthy relationships and ways of being present for each other. Loving roots allow for powerful wings.
An elder. Boy, was that good grief, right off the bat, an elder. I came here when I was 24 years old. An elder. That really hurts. Kids, someday you're going to be an elder. Hang on. Okay, and I will start out. I'm the last one because I'm probably a little weird to begin with. Everybody knows me well. I know of no day in my life when my parents or I was not in church. I mean, if we were either gone, vacationing, or we were sick or near death. We were in church on every Sunday. That's all I know. So for me to say about traditions, I've grown up in a first Christian church was my first experience where the traditions were pretty set. Every Sunday I came, I sat quietly in the pew. I tore a watch apart with a pocket knife, probably a pocket knife, and I put together, or we read, but I was a busy boy. So when I got to high school, the first thing is one of the elders came and said, "How would you like to be an usher?" Boy, was that an experience. You got to stand in the back, you got to run around, you got to do all kinds of things, you got to greet people. I'm a people person, so I got to greet people. How exciting. I know of no time in church where the traditions are still with us. This congregation and others, we get to choose our traditions. They're man-made. They're things that we choose. They've been passed on to us for generations and generations. We pick the ones that we enjoy. My number one tradition is participation. We choose to come every week. We choose to be excited about what's going on in church, whether we are or not. There's times when I come here and I go, oh, God, I could be out doing something, and I can hardly wait after I leave to be here. After I get here. It's so much fun to be here. So I'm a busy boy. I was playing in the aisles, helping people. We had communion every Sunday, so we got to do that. It was just fabulous. But I got to show interest in people. I got to learn about people, everyone. I meet them at the door still to this day, because I get to bump people. I make a ration a little bit, but that's just the way I get to say that I recognize you're here. And I always try to make sure the kids know they're here. I had an elder in the church where I grew up that came to me every Sunday and said, "I'm glad you're here." As a kid, it made an impression on me. Then, the music, spectacular. The music has changed so much since I've been in church. When I was your age, We drone through some old pieces. I learned the words. I listened. And then we got a band today that plays music that I understand. The tradition has changed so much. We choose it. We choose what traditions get to move forward. It's spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And to find a church that is accepting. I'm the worst one. Okay. I come to church some days and go, God, why do I have to listen? Why do I have to agree with them? Who's this person? God picks me up by the back of the neck, kicks me in the tail and says, everybody is so special. Every single person is so special. My views have changed so much since I've been a part of this congregation. Absolutely. Absolutely. The people involved that I see are so special, have changed my life and how I look at things. Every one of you, even if you're normal. Okay. And then I come, this is a little harder. I come because I have read my entire life what Jesus tells us to do. Every Sunday I look forward. He's the one that picked me up by the back of the neck and says, now pay attention, because life is changing around us. We don't understand that. But if you pay attention, every single person is special. Every single one of us has different stories to tell and where we've come from and the traditions of that. And so I come, I bring a leaf blower once in a while. I bring a big rock into church. I've had the canoe in church. I've had all kinds of sticks, mud, dirt, blow torches, you name it, fire, shovels. I brought everything in because I want you kids to know. What's that?
Those are the best days.
Those are fun days for me too. But I want the kids to know that we make our traditions. We look at how life comes to us. That is part of life. That is part of life. So we enjoy that. So my traditions have changed with me and are so special. But where you go next, you won't always be a part of this congregation. Okay? You get to choose your next congregation, where you're going to be. Gail and I looked at a couple of churches before we landed in this one. And somebody told us we need to check this one out because it was different. And it is. So when you get old, elder, my age, and you move around, you get to choose what church you want to be a part of. Choose one that doesn't tell you the answers to the questions, but helps you find questions to explore and challenge yourself each day. Okay? Elder, boy, does that hurt.
I'd like to see the youth population grow more.
And I'd like to see more youth involvement in committees and in the inner workings.
My hopes for the church is that there's more community and talking, because a lot of the kids don't know the adults and a lot of the adults don't know the kids, but if we all learned more about each other and got to know each other, then we can become more of a close community, because we all love this community, hopefully, and we should know who's in the community.
My hope for the future of this church is to have a more inclusive family and to deepen our faith within the youth.
Something I'd like to see is more families with younger kids and to have more youth group outings.